Hi, I'm Jo Munday and welcome to this first edition of Videos That Get Clients, a series of podcasts for entrepreneurs, coaches and anyone who works one-to-one with their clients and wants to use video to really connect with their clients in an authentic way to create a strong relationship with them from the start and generate more sales. And this applies whether you want to make your own videos or perhaps work with someone who can help you create that video. There are loads of reasons why online video is great for increasing the visibility of your brand. Having a video on your website helps with SEO, search engine optimization, and any links from YouTube help increase your rankings on Google. And the analytics show that people just prefer to click on video links above text or images. And that means people will spend longer on your website, as well as increasing things like click-through rates on emails. So if you have a video link in an email you send out to potential clients, they're actually 3 times more likely to go through to your website than if you don't have a video link in that email. It also increases the amount of platforms that you can actually share your content. So YouTube is actually the second largest search engine, only beaten by Google itself. So lots of people go straight to YouTube before they go to Google. And there's other video sharing sites such as Vimeo, and of course all the social media channels, which are all now geared up for video. And again, the same rules apply. So on Facebook, for example, people love to click on video links above images or other kind of links. I've been working in online video production for 10 years, having been a TV and radio journalist. And in the last few years, I've been working particularly with small business owners and coaches in particular who want to make a real impact on their websites in quite a quick way, but an authentic way, and to express themselves and really connect with their clients. So that's the focus of these podcasts. And I'll also share some of the key do's and don'ts, the kind of more technical aspect of video production and what to do and what to avoid if you are making your films yourself. Video is a brilliant tool for connecting with your audience, and I'm really passionate about helping people use it in a way that's most effective, because I see so many people trying their best, presenting to camera, trying desperately to remember their tips that they want to share. And they haven't really shown their best self. They haven't really shown their true self to the camera, to their audience. And so the information just gets lost in the busyness of the web, in the digital noise that's out there. So when I'm working with my clients, and the reason why connecting with your audience is my first audio, is because that connection, it really is that X factor element that when you get it right can help your video really just stand out. If you move someone, if you touch them with your message, then they'll remember you, they'll trust you, they'll get a real sense of who you are. And if you're right for them, then they'll buy from you. Really being authentic and really showing who you are, what you're all about, really just stands out in a digital space because there's not actually that much of it. And people don't realise how powerful that is. Whether you're an entrepreneur who's really passionate about what you do, or perhaps you work one-to-one with people and you want to build that trust with someone who's coming across you for the first time, building that connection is really fundamental to driving sales and really sharing that passion, that authentic desire that you have with someone is just the best way to help build that trust, that loyalty, and get you at your best self. I always say video at its best is like your best elevator pitch, delivered again and again and again to everyone who watches you online. It's as if everyone that can see you online is having an experience of you as if you've met them one-to-one at an event somewhere. And you just shine. You're shining, you don't have any nerves, you're in flow. And that's when people really want to reach out to you, to connect to you, to find out more about what you do. And it's effortless. It doesn't have to be a hard sell. It doesn't have to be convincing. It doesn't have to be persuasion. So when I'm working with my clients, I encourage them to think about sales in a slightly different way. And that's not about persuasion and convincing people. It's a much simpler process. And that's really connecting from the heart, being authentic. If there are a few ums and ahs in that video, fine. Be yourself. dare to be a bit raw, dare to be true to yourself, dare to really show your emotion. And I've always intuitively known that really touching your audience is the best way to build that connection and that loyalty, really moving them with your story. That's going to build a relationship with them, and that's ultimately going to develop that trust that they then will want to work with you or buy your product or service. And the cool thing is that all over the years that I've been working as a video producer, and I've intuitively known that, there's actually some scientific research that backs this up, that backs up that the feeling, the emotion behind what you say is much more important than the message. John Kiernan, who's the CEO of a company called Brain Juicer, has done a lot of research into this, like why do people buy, what adverts work and why. And he said categorically that persuasion just isn't as powerful. A persuasive message, a clever message just isn't as powerful as the simple generating a good feeling with someone. Because we don't make decisions with our rational minds. We don't make decisions because, oh, that vacuum cleaner has all the right features that I want to make my carpet clean. We actually make our decisions with the oldest part of our brain, which is about emotional, impulsive decisions. We make them very quickly and then try and rationalise them with the newer outer part of our brain that governs logic and rational decision making. So it's not about all the key features, even though we might look at those afterwards. We make a decision before we know any of that. Whether the advert or the exposure we have to that product or service generates a feeling within us that resonates in some way. And that feeling could be surprise or humour. John Kiernan makes the point that the best adverts often don't hardly have a message at all. If you look at something like the Cadbury's gorilla playing the drums to Phil Collins years ago, you wouldn't really be able to define what exactly the message was behind that. But it definitely generated an emotional response in a lot of people and became the most successful advert ever. Simon Sinek, in his brilliant TED Talk, How Great Leaders Inspire Action, also talks about how many of the most successful brands also use this older part of our brain, the limbic brain, which is responsible for behaviour, decision making, and most of all feelings, that feeling of trust and loyalty. And he says companies like Apple or even speakers like Martin Luther King don't go into the specifics of their message. You don't know how big the hard drive of an Apple computer is before you buy it. Often it's about the feeling that that brand generates in you. They don't talk about specifics, they talk about their why, that more general purpose, the reason why they do something, the reason why they built their brand, what it's all about, what are Apple all about, rather than the specifics of each of their devices. As Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so all my videos work with that one statement. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so the priority for me when I work with my clients is not to cram the video with lots of messages and information, but to really tune in to who the person is, what they're all about, why they get up in the morning, why they're passionate about what they do, and get into that state of pure connection with their purpose, with their drivers, with their true self, essentially. And the way I do that is that I interview my clients, and the interview forms the main key feature of the video. We might film their product, or we might film them working with a client as an example, as cutaways to show them in action. But the key feature of any video I would do is that main interview with the business owner. And the way I interview them is I give us a lot of space to develop that connection in quite an in-depth interview. And my aim always is to make them completely forget that they're being interviewed at all, so that they're completely lost in the moment and we're just having a really heartfelt conversation. I'm looking for those moments of connection and authenticity that give you goosebumps or make you well up with tears. I'll ask those big questions about what they do and why it's important to them. And I'll just listen really deeply and I'll let the conversation go where it needs to go. I don't have a list of questions, I don't have a set criteria, and I listen with a quiet mind because I know if I'm in a quiet space, they will be too. And when they're in a quiet space, they'll get really in tune with their essence, their purpose. And as an entrepreneur, you no doubt have a compelling reason why you do what you do, a really beautiful story that would be powerful to share with other people. And sometimes the elements of the story that will go into the final edit aren't the ones that are the obvious ones, but it's just a feeling, a subtle feeling that I've really captured them and who they are. And while I have a few questions in the back of my mind, like what's important to you about your work, those kind of big questions that tune into people's values and their purpose in life, while I'll have those questions in my mind, I'll also let the conversation flow to where their natural passions are. I'll give that space so that our conversation becomes like a dance where we get to the heart of their business and to their brand and who they are. In the interview setup, I'll be sitting next to the camera and the client will be looking at me, and we'll sort of forget that the camera is there. And so that's why I encourage people to use this style rather than to look straight at camera, because it's harder to connect in the same way with the same depth if you're looking straight into camera. If you're looking to film yourself, you may be thinking, how can I do this? How can I get that rich feeling without an interviewer? And it is possible if you're filming yourself, if you're perhaps just filming yourself on an iPhone, to build that deep connection. It's obviously a bit more difficult than speaking to another person. Having said that, if you are filming yourself and looking into the camera lens, there are some basic things I would suggest, such as don't just recite something that you've memorised and don't cram it again with lots of information. You don't deliver a sort of top tips where you have to remember a lot of information. Obviously, if you'd like to have a few bullet points in mind, then that's fine, but if after you've written them down, just put them to one side and then just go with what comes in the moment and speak from the heart, because you'll never be able to get into the flow and into the moment if you've got too much to remember in your head. Step back, take a breath, and dare to just answer that one question: what is important to you about what you do? It gives yourself a chance to get really into the flow in the moment and really show yourself to your audience. I know some people imagine talking to a good friend or a family member if they're looking into the camera lens and they find it difficult to connect, consider it because they're looking at a piece of machinery rather than a person. In the next audios, I'm going to look at more specific technical questions around filming and making videos for yourself, as well as messaging. When it comes to creating a real impact with your message and selling your story, I'll be looking into how to make sure you're bringing your message back to your audience and making it as relevant as possible for them, so that they feel that you're really answering those questions that they're already asking themselves, so that you can tap into what they really want to have and what they want to avoid, so that they get the sense that you really know them and you're a really good fit for what they're after. But I would say if there's one thing to share with people I work with, and the one takeaway I'd say was most important above all else, would be developing that connection. As an entrepreneur, you have a really compelling reason why you do what you do. No doubt you have a beautiful story. And people want to hear that. People want to feel your humanity. Especially if you're offering some kind of service where you're working one-to-one and they're deciding whether they want to work with you and develop and have that personal relationship with you. But even if you're buying a product for your house, you'd much prefer to buy that product from someone who really cares about what they do, isn't just in it for the money, but really wants to add value and give you the best product that they can. So I hope that is useful as a little introduction to building that connection and really using video to its best. Using a video that really gives it a reason to be used rather than just typing up some tips on your webpage. People can feel you, they can hear you, they can see you, and so it really is the best way to reach out to those people who you can't actually reach one-to-one in person. Once I have an in-depth interview with my client, I will then cut it down to a very short 2 to 3 minute film, because it's all about building that connection but doing it in a short space of time, and that's also very possible with online video. And in the next few audios I'll look at that in more detail about how that can be accomplished. In the meantime, if you've got any questions for me, or if you'd like to hear a bit more about what I do, I'd love to hear from you. My email address is jo@jo-munday.com. That's jo-munday.com. And my website is www.jo-munday.com. Thank you very much.